What's up, everybody? You're listening to Lo-Fi Faith with Mike and James.
We're two guys who also happen to be pastors, doing our best to have open conversations about what it means to follow Jesus in today's world. Welcome back, everybody, to Lo-Fi Faith. I am joined in the studio today with James, who's my typical co-host.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, James.
I'm here.
He is. Yes, you are. Thank you for announcing what I'd already announced.
I just wanted to confirm. Sometimes what you say is not accurate, but this time it is true. I am here with you.
Well, thanks for that, James.
Yeah.
Or not. Anyway, moving right along, we're also joined with another individual by the name of Daryl Parsons. Daryl, we want to welcome you to Lo-Fi Faith.
Thank you.
Now, Daryl, most of our listeners probably won't be familiar with you, so could you just give us a little bit about yourself? Who is Daryl?
Sure. Well, local Cantabrian. We live locally, and I'm a dad of young adults. I work in carpentry is my first profession, and then I've gone from that and counselling and supervision and education into communicating about real life stuff, especially for men.
Okay, awesome. And just to be transparent, I actually came to know Daryl because he was my counsellor for about a little over a year, I think it was.
So you're telling me that you were at one point worse than you currently are.
I love how that's what you took away from that statement. Daryl, the counsellor right now, is going, James, who's this James guy who comes out with these kind of statements?
So kind.
But on that, to be real, I do want to thank you, Daryl, for the time that we spent together. And to those out there who are listening who know me personally, I think everyone who knows me knows I have some issues, but Daryl really knows that I have issues, and he was very caring and genuine during that time. And so I want to thank you, Daryl, for the help that you gave me during a tough time when there was a lot to process, but it was valuable to sit down with you and just say what was on my mind and all of that. So yeah, Daryl, it's nice to have you on the show. James, you could probably benefit from a bit of Daryl's help as well. I don't know. Yeah,
no, I feel like I'm probably...
You've arrived, have you?
Yeah, I don't think there's any more self-improvement, but I wish I'd met you sooner, Daryl. Probably would have short-circuited the process.
Yeah, it's probably too little too late at this point for James.
I am what I am, and I don't intend to change or grow in any way after this.
Hey, well, at least you're honest about it, James. Daryl's looking a little bit alarmed right now, but...
Yeah, there's some concern there.
Yeah. As there should be.
Follow Lo-Fi Faith with Mike and James on Instagram to keep up with new episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and to join in on the conversation.
Hey, well, Daryl, thanks again for joining us here on Lo-Fi Faith. And look, the main thing that we wanted to talk with you about, I know that you're in the process of writing and speaking about some themes that are very near and dear to your heart, themes around men and grief and associated issues. And we want to talk about those today. But I did want to ask you, because I'm aware that sort of what put you on this path was a difficult experience that you went through some years ago. Do you want to just, for the sake of context to our listeners who aren't familiar with you, share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. A snapshot, perhaps. So I'm writing about manly grieving and midlife widowhood. There's the headline.
Okay.
And so, in essence, life as we knew it back in 2017 was going one way along a certain path. And my former spouse, as I called her, Melissa, she got cancer. It was initially treatable, and then there was the lurking behind terrible one that was, hideous and killed her in August 2018. So we're actually coming up, this August we're coming up 8 years. So I was speaking a little bit about some of these themes in a bunch of settings, and then there's a tipping point where the courage and kind of readiness to write about it. There's just nothing out there. I would have preferred a guy talk or write about what happened when your life sort of ended as you knew it, midlife through widowhood. No one plans or wants that. Couldn't find anything. And eventually, through doing those talks here and there, I realised, I might better try this with a sense of trying to reach out to guys that are stuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's bereavement grief, but let's also broaden it to any kind of loss, grief that really radically changes our lives.
Yeah.
So you were talking about this before this happened with your wife?
No, since then. men and mental emotional health and relationships were already my thing, my gig,
Okay.
my research, my vocation. And then 2 or 3 years after she died in 2018, the settings I was either lecturing a counselling lecturer or working as a counsellor or so on, I began to try out talking about it because there was nothing. Come on, offer us something helpful. What's it really been like in real terms and how do you cope and how do you survive? And so it was a desperate cry for help. Was why I stood up and tried to contribute out of that out of that pain. And
So a lot of this just comes from your personal experience of you having to navigate this without having all of this material available to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. From the life, from the living, from the mess, from the pain.
And you felt there was a void there, just in regards to men and grieving.
Yeah, men and grieving. Full stop.
Yep.
Across my whole last 20 years counselling, I've seen like 2 little items on it, and then especially midlife widowhood.
Yeah, right.
Respectfully, there's people who lose their spouse, near the end of life, and it's what it is, and it's sort of more like expected.
Yeah.
But nothing about the absolute shock. And like I literally talk about like a Y intersection. You're going along that way, and someone changes the tracks, and what the heck are you doing down this road? You never
planned on doing.
Don't plan, can't stand, hate it, ranting at life, ranting at God, and just
trying to figure it all out.
bewildered.
Yeah.
Don't even have words for what that is, but
Yeah. So why do you think there is such a void in terms of material on those issues with men and midlife widowhood and grief? Why isn't there a lot of material available?
Well, in the field I've already been in my volunteer work when I was younger, and then the last 20, 30 years, if we aren't talking about hard emotions and hard life stuff, when shit happens and when life goes bad and it's too painful, then any major life topics also aren't talked about. So I think it goes men's emotions and health and emotional literacy and knowing how to say what's happening in us, or trying to, amongst friends over a beer or a coffee, and then circumstance. There's a whole lot of what's called disenfranchised grief, and that just basically means not trendy. So it's either trivialized or peripheral or left out, lost on the edges.
So there's like mainstream grief that everyone sort of validates, and then you're saying there's this other whole...
all kinds, like people whose baby dies, or people who this happens, or people who lost that, and we don't talk about that, stigma, or it's not okay, or we don't know how to cope if you talk about that.
It makes us uncomfortable, so we're just going to avoid that topic.
And that's a bunch of reasons why I think this was also sitting there untouched. And I struggled to find, which is part of what I'm writing about. I say at one point there, I felt like a social leper.
Right.
Who's talking about manly grief and midlife widowhood? Fortunately, I found one local guy, or 2, but one was open to meeting and actually he's more communicative, and that's why the whole emphasis in this last 2 years of trying to get this into writing and into narrated and talk about it is to get guys together, 1 or 2s or 3s, to have a yarn over a beer or a coffee. What's actually happening for you?
Yeah. Did you find when you were going through that you would try to talk to people and it was just, there wasn't, like, people didn't know what to say, that you just weren't able to...
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. Why is no one talking about midlife widowhood for men? And then I go, well, men are harder to support. Why? Because the ones who help are kind married women.
Right.
They don't want to be misconstrued romantically.
Yeah, sure.
And you're lonely as and suffering and tired trying to parent. I was a single parent. And touch hungry and all those real hungers and thirsts that you have as a man. And so it can only go so far to be kind and helpful. And then the blokes that ask, how are you? Which they're not asking.
Yeah.
Eyes raised, you exist. You know that look. Eyes up.
And the correct answer is, I'm good, mate.
I'm fine. Fine, Jack.
Yeah.
And so if I said something different, well, there were some compassionate guys I worked with. There was a few in the circles that I move in. But the willingness to ask that or listen if I said anything honest was so thinning out as to almost disappear.
And did you find after a short time that there was less and less people who were going to ask those questions?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which I was warned about by this guy that had gone through it first. And yeah, he said, there'd be the kindness, the meals, and all the thing around the funeral and the after match function. Sorry, but whatever you call it. And then it will, but beware, it will all diminish to 6 weeks, and people go about their lives, and you just have to deal with it.
Yeah, I remember actually being told that as a minister, that oftentimes when people experience loss, we pay attention for those 6 weeks, and then, and one of the things they taught me, I'm not always great at, but was actually to put in my calendar at the 8-week, 10-week mark, just because there's so few people who check in at those points.
They're almost like an expectation that, well, it's been 6 weeks now. This person should be okay, or
you just get on with your life. You have other things. Like we are so insulated in our own perspectives, right? And so someone else is carrying all of this grief for life. But we can compartmentalize because it's not our grief, right? And so we see them, we feel sorry for them, but then we move on with our lives when they're still stuck in it. At least that's how I've seen it.
Oh, so common, which reflects our capacities, our coping. And that's why I'm so grateful to have our minister's thoughts as the foreword for this, because he journeyed right through. Not only all Melissa's suffering and cancer and hospice and death and then funeral and then all the way through. Ashes a year on, all the way through, supporting us coming around. And then the rest of the story that's unfolded in the last years.
So can you break down some of the key concepts? Like, what have you learned from your journey?
Well, when I talked about men's grief and men's emotions, one of the things that I'm raising in here as a question is not just, hey, let's be more open to talking about the untalkable. Speak about the unspeakable. Feel the unfeelable. Let's try and grow there. Let's become more human. But also, are we emotionally constipated? It's a question I ask all the time.
It's an interesting way to put it.
Man, are you emotionally constipated? And most guys I ask that, they laugh like that. Oh, shit, I am. I wondered why I stunk so much. Because we get it with our body and our physical state, right, when we're blocked up. And it's true for your body, true for your soul. So one of the key pieces that I illustrate in the most messy, unideal way in our own story here is, how do you let stuff out that those things I just tried to say then? You're trying to feel the unfeelable and say the unsayable, and like you literally have to have a bunch of people and a bunch of ways of ranting or physically smashing things, or we're bodily men. We need to get stuff out through our body. So that's why I use the language of emotional constipation.
So say someone is in that place where they recognize they are emotionally constipated. They're overwhelmed. They're not really letting any of this out. They can identify that, but they genuinely do not know what to do about it. What would you say to these people?
Well, the first piece is that recognition. Man, I'm all blocked up. True for our bodies. Kind of, man, I'm all blocked up. What the heck? And then I'll be asking, how are you noticing that? And literally guys will go, well, it's my guts. I'm really sore. Or I have a constant headache on my shoulders. I've only just realised they're always hunched, or my fists are ready to smash your face into.
So they feel it in their body.
Yeah, where in your body is that going on?
There's a tension or some
Pain,
kind of
tension,
feeling,
physical sickness. And who knows? Who knows what's emotional, mental, and what's physical? But they're all together. How are you noticing it, and what's that like? Because if we pay attention, then we can ask questions after that, like, so what do you wonder? What do you need? What might help?
That is such a big part of it, is learning to have that awareness. And we would talk about this with Orlando, who was on our show previously, and I know you listened to one of those episodes, Daryl.
Thank you.
And he was giving tips about how to become more emotionally aware. It really is such a challenge, and if you're not taught those skills growing up, which I don't think certainly not most men are, right?
Who was?
Yeah, and then suddenly, when maybe something shocks you in your life, and you realize, man, there's a lot going on underneath the surface that I've been unaware of. That journey of becoming more aware is a very scary one, and it feels like you're learning a skill for the first time, so you're clumsy at it, you're not good at it. It's frustrating because you can't always get the result you want. I can relate to that.
I think the other thing is, for some guys, they feel like it's almost a form of selfishness, right? To feel these things like I've got to be the tough one, I've got to be strong, I've got to be there for everybody else, and so it would be selfish of me to focus on my emotions. I just don't have time for that. What would you say to that?
Really? Our own airlines are telling us first put on your own oxygen mask before you try and put on someone else's. So if we aren't taking care of ourselves before we fill in the gap, be a friend, be a worker, be a parent, be a partner or spouse, what are we giving?
So you can't really be present for other people in the same way if you're not showing up for yourself.
Here we go. Show up for yourself, show up for others. There's that healthy triangle that is from something Jesus said about loving God, which I interpret as receive the love of God first, receive the love of good people, and guess what? You'll probably be good to yourself as well. Three-way. I need to receive the love of good people and enjoy nature and food and rest and receive the love of God through all the above. And I might end up giving that to myself, and then guess what? I might have some to give in
You'll
my
have some leftover for
relational
others.
roles as a friend, as a spouse, as a dad, as a worker.
You're listening to Lo-Fi Faith with Mike and James. Like bringing up the spiritual aspect, the question that came to my mind was from your experience in churches, maybe generally, or at least from your experience, are men who have been, discipled to some degree in churches in New Zealand better at this kind of stuff, or is there still a bit of a gaping chasm there of just an inability for men to become emotionally aware and to learn how to express their emotions and grieve and all of those things? How are churches doing at this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I wish I could say hand on heart, we're doing all right, or we're doing better, or something, but we're not.
Right.
And the stories in the scripts about how we be a man are the biggest powerful operating, almost like the strings that pull a puppet. Like the lines about being a man, silent type, strong silent type, or they seem to rule. And that's why I love the emotionally healthy spirituality content, which I believe you've been speaking about, because that's changing my life truly. Being more slow, more present. There are guys who have grown up in, fill in the blank kind of household, doesn't matter what label you put on it, religious or otherwise, who have had warm eyes, warm faces, warm voices, and attentive parents and grandparents and others. And they don't have a question about, what do you mean, name your emotions or pay attention to people or be empathic or be tuned in. That's just who they are.
Right.
And not many of them are in Christian churches. Like you get the most kind-hearted. Someone said to me the other day, this guy that's just overflowing with warmth and friendliness and kindness, like moth to a flame level, you'll be drawn to and attracted to this human being. She's like, man, he'd make a good Christ follower. Did you tell him? Because he's already acting like one.
Yeah. Well, he is following Christ in those ways, right? Maybe not consciously, but in many other ways.
Out of his pores. I literally mean that.
Yeah,
you find that in building or in surgery or in radio or in any field. So I would call it being more fully human.
And a lot of that, what you just identified, a lot of that can come down to those early life experiences.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say for those people who just did not have those early life experiences and they came up, especially if it was a reinforced growing up that you're a man, right? These little boys who just did not get the warmth, they didn't get that. It's you had to stuff that emotion inside. Because I've met some people who are well functioning in many ways until life gets stressful, but because they don't have the tools to manage that stress, it's almost like they revert back to being a 3 or a 5-year-old and throwing temper tantrums when they get really emotionally overwhelmed. Big men, and then they're slamming doors and hitting things. What do you do with that? If someone was there and they're aware they're there, but they really don't know what to do, and it feels like it would take 10,000 steps to get to being fully human, what are the first few steps they take?
Man, how many episodes have we got?
Can you solve this problem in the next 3 minutes?
Yeah, please solve the problem of men and midlife in 5 minutes.
Human development, relating more healthily with people and in professional terms, psychotherapy, where the child and younger and adolescent parts of us actually need and want to grow up because they've got real needs that want to be met better. So that can happen, but the first step of that guy you just mentioned, which is, look, all of us in the room, is awareness. Wait a minute, I'm showing up like a 36 or a 48-year-old or CEO or whatever at work, and I was just privately questioned, I saw your tantrum in the car park when that person opened their car door and touched your flash Volkswagen. Good question, isn't it? Well, so those parts of us, I have guys in every decade of life working with me therapeutically who are like going, whoa, I'm now going to pay attention to that part of me. And I'm not going to pull scabs off healing wounds, right? But if a guy goes there, it's incredible some of the things that can happen. And the other thing is when I comment back to your guy, our friend that we quote unquote, your friend you're talking about, I'm like, how are you being this present, loving father and husband you're describing when you've had a traumatized, beating, violence upbringing? You haven't received and yet you're giving. Where's that coming from? Because I'm marveling, sitting in the room going, where does he get that from?
Right. Because you're seeing a different side. You're seeing...
Well, how does he give something he didn't receive?
Yeah.
But there are some people in his present life that are, like I said, warm, strong, kind, affectionate. And he's taking some good in and channeling out and then breaking the cycle. I love those stories the most when someone, a bloke learns to love and parent in ways they never received. It's phenomenal.
So it is possible at any age to start showing up in these ways, but it does take a level of awareness and a desire for change, it sounds like is what you're saying. And if they don't have those two elements, they can't then give what they have not received.
Yeah, because without the awareness and the desire for something better or hope that it could even be slightly better, we keep constipated, we keep it all blocked up. And a trauma-informed approach is going to go, yeah, of course we do. That's sown into the soil of our lives, so guess what fruit's going to come? It's no mystery. But equally, you can have all sorts of things in the garden of your heart and your life and your relationships and find better nurture or compost or, that's my lived reality, not my metaphor. It's, where's the pea straw, where's the seaweed, where's the mulching in of good stuff, the watering, the sun, and that helps the ecosystem of our soul and our life become healthier. And you've all seen that in the garden, right? Something turned from barren or already crusty or infected in disease to refreshed soil, eventually some life and then some crops or some fruit. And we are that. That's the story. That's the language I want to use.
So when you're speaking on these issues, Daryl, to groups or to men, is there, like, aside from the things that we've talked about, is there a particular theme or a particular idea that you want to get across that you see as key to somebody starting or being successful on that journey of learning to grieve and learning to be more vulnerable and expressive with their emotions and all of those things? Is there a particular idea that you try to get across, that you really try to focus on?
Yeah, the first one that's come up a couple of times today is self-awareness.
Right, okay.
So things are going on in all the aspects of our lives, and like you asked, James, how are we aware of that in our body? Unless we're really dissociated and blocked it really away and it's all hidden and under layers and layers, we're going to be noticing it. Or what have people said they noticed about you, storing this in your body?
That outside feedback.
Oh, I'm always angry, or I'm always tense, or I'm always in a rush, or I can't sit still, or it comes out my mouth with my words or whatever. And then what do you think about that? How is that version of you in your assessment? What kind of version are you aspiring to be? Which is what I mean by becoming a bit more fully human. I'd kind of like to save my relationship and get the right to be back with my kids, and I'd like to be someone they're proud of. I want them to talk about their old man when they're older and go, he was a rough bastard, but he had a good heart, and I still remember him at my cricket or my rugby or my whatever,
Sure.
And most guys, hand on heart, want to be someone their son or daughter is proud of or close to, or at least looks up to. They can share some really valuable things with them.
So to bring this conversation full circle, there's obviously so much to talk about here, but we started with this concept of grief and your own personal experience of grief, that why in the road, and now you're on a different track. We wanted to give you the last word here on speaking directly to those people where that's their reality right now, where the bomb has just gone off and they're standing in the aftershock and they really don't even know what to do with the grief journey that's ahead of them. Could you give them some encouragement, some thoughts based on your own experience?
If the bomb's just gone off, there's a horrendous whopping hole in your life, bleeding and agonizing and terrible and unwanted. So it's kind of disaster response time, which means call out for help or receive some of the help that's being offered. And sometimes that means it can feel humbling as a bloke. I haven't got it all myself. I can't handle it. No, I can't. Need every help. I needed someone to come and do the cleaning in my place. It just fell to bits. The yard, the house. I needed someone to talk to when it was words. This guy or the dude listening needs, his own way of processing, whether it's tears or talking or smashing things like I did. I mean, I'm a carpenter. I'm going to use my muscles and I kicked balls till they popped. Like soccer and volleyballs. You need a punching bag. You need your own ways of, or go chop the wood or something that actually lets the emotion out through your body, and then somebody shows you some understanding. Because until you can feel like, oh, this is A, allowed, and B, real and important, and one person or two get me, how in the world are you ever going to process this or track with this or let what's a bomb gone off in your life move and become survivable?
Awesome. Cool. Very practical. Daryl, really appreciate having you on the show and sharing your wisdom on these topics. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Lo-Fi Faith. If something resonated with you today, we'd love it if you shared the show with a friend.
You can catch up on past episodes at plains.org.nz and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll be back with a fresh episode in 2 weeks.
See you then.